Here's more wrestling news for October 23rd, 2021. And your headlines for this afternoon include: Hacksaw Jim Duggan recovered and going home after emergency surgery, 3 unbearable WWE Smackdown stars, WWE female referee makes history at Crown Jewel, WWE adds another city name to banned words list, CM Punk told Tony Khan not to alter AEW booking because of WWE, Vince McMahon acted immature about AEW Rampage ratings, former WWE Divas champion in Las Vegas ahead of Impact Wrestling Bound for Glory, and more. We are starting today with Hacksaw Jim Duggan, who was hospitalized earlier this week for emergency surgery. It remains unclear what kind of surgery Jim had, but it was clearly a success as the WWE Hall of Famer is back at home. On Instagram, Duggan shared a photo of himself giving his classic thumbs up, and we can only imagine the huge smile he had on under his mask. In the post, Hacksaw thanked the doctors and nurses of Kershaw County Medical Center, and we're pleased to see the legendary wrestler is doing much, much better. Over to Smackdown, as this week's show saw Shinsuke Nakamura in action, who we can't help but see as uncool. There was a time when Nakamura oozed swagger and had intensity and charisma for days, but with Rick Boogs by his side, the Intercontinental Champion seems a shadow of his former self. His feud with Happy Corbin and Madcap Moss isn't doing Nakamura any favors, but it's Boogs himself who is the worst offender. There's just something about Boogs and his guitar playing that is just unbearable, and we wouldn't be surprised if fans are changing channels in droves whenever he's on screen. The forced laughter of Corbin and Moss is almost just as unbearable as Boogs, but we can at least excuse them for being heels. But it's Boogs who's made the King of Strong Style painfully uncool this year. Crown Jewel news as the pay-per-view marked WWE's return to Saudi Arabia, but it was an extra historic night for Jessica Carr. Officiating the Hell in a Cell match between Edge and Seth Rollins, as well as the King of the Ring finals, Carr became the first woman to referee in Saudi Arabia. Carr, who wore full-length clothes and following local traditions, tweeted that she was blown away at the opportunity and received a response by Natalya, who praised Carr as a history maker. Joining WWE as an official in 2017, Carr is the company's first full-time female referee since the 1980s and is looking forward to being a part of future Saudi events after her historic work this week. It's no secret that WWE has a list of banned words they don't want heard on TV, with words like murder, house show, and violence just some of the words banned. Earlier this year, Raleigh was added to the company's banned list, though WWE denied this happened, but now another city's name has been ditched by Vince McMahon. Last week's SmackDown took place at the Toyota Center in Ontario, California, but WWE refused to say the name of the city, instead stating that the Blue brand was airing from Southern California. It's unclear why WWE ditched the Ontario name, but one theory is that they didn't want fans to think of the Canadian province Ontario, which has produced some of the biggest names in wrestling from the Great White North. We'll have to pay close attention to what names WWE does and doesn't use as they continue the return to touring, but we're sure that the idea of banning Ontario came from WWE's headquarters in southwest Fairfield County, Connecticut. AEW news, as it's no secret that the All Elite company and WWE watch each other, despite both claiming that that isn't the case. AEW publicly acknowledges WWE far more than the other way around, but not everyone is thrilled with the idea of Tony Khan booking in response to Vince McMahon. In the Wrestling Observer newsletter, it's reported that CM Punk has advised Khan against counterbooking when he loaded last week's Rampage card to go against Smackdown. Punk may have warned against booking the top of the show heavy, but he also asked Khan to put his match with Matt Sydal as the Rampage opener, meaning his match would go head-to-head with Smackdown, telling the AEW president, "I can take that bullet." There's a pro wrestling war going on, so it's not surprising to see both companies book in response to the other. And if anything, this is another indicator that CM Punk is doing far more for AEW than just what we see on TV. Last week, SmackDown also saw the Blue brand go head-to-head with AEW, and although WWE's show beat Rampage in total viewership and tied in the ratings, Rampage won in the 18 to 49 demographic for fans who tuned in during the 30-minute crossover. It wasn't the biggest victory for AEW, but a victory nonetheless, and one that struck a nerve with Vince McMahon. In the Wrestling Observer newsletter, it said that McMahon didn't want anyone to see him lose his cool about the ratings war, which those backstage have gotten used to. The report reads, Vince McMahon was in Sacramento. It was described as he didn't get mad in front of anyone, and it was noted that there have been times in these situations where he can come across very immature when ratings come out not favorable in recent weeks, and it was said he was anything but that. It should be kept in mind that the ratings McMahon saw were the overnight numbers, and those numbers weren't the final authority, and it's worth remembering that Smackdown emerged the winner in terms of overall viewership. Tony Khan was very pleased with AEW Rampage's performance as he continues to take shots at WWE on a weekly basis as the war between the two companies is far from finished. More news from Smackdown as Charlotte Flair has always been criticized for getting more title shots than other WWE superstars. This week's episode of Friday Night Smackdown ended with Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair exchanging their respective titles. This is because they switched brands during the WWE draft. According to PW Insider, some segments that happened in the ring during that segment, including Flair throwing one of the belts on the ground, after which Lynch threw the other belt at Flair, were not part of the plan. When Becky Lynch left and Sasha Banks came out, the segment got back on course. However, Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair then had a heated confrontation backstage. There was said to be an issue with Flair allegedly disrespecting Lynch by trying to make her look bad, and there was a heated situation and loud words exchanged. Thankfully, it never got physical. It did not end there, as according to Alex McCarthy of TalkSport, Charlotte Flair left the gorilla position without talking to Vince McMahon at all. This did not set too well with him in the slightest. Apparently, Charlotte was also on her way to Orlando, where she will support Andrade El Idolo in AEW. In his report, Alex said, Flair walked away and Vince McMahon wasn't happy Charlotte left Gorilla without talking to him. Flair is now heading to Orlando to support Andrade at AEW Dynamite. Now, Ringside News exclusively reports that there were people on the Blue brand who weren't happy about trading Flair for Lynch. It is said that Becky Lynch is liked by everyone, while Flair is not very popular. The two aren't getting along either, and that situation has been ongoing for a while. Alex McCarthy of TalkSport reported that the tension between Becky and Charlotte started years ago when the man called the Queen plastic. Obviously, Flair was a bit upset about that shot below the belt. In his report, Alex said, "The Flair-Lynch friendship has been strained for some time. People close to the situation say Flair didn't appreciate being called plastic during a promo a couple of years ago, and it's been tense since." Fox always wanted Charlotte Flair on SmackDown. Now that they finally have her, the irony of the situation is pretty evident because there are massive issues already. We will continue monitoring this ongoing situation. This is a serious issue, and there was an obvious reason why Andrade tweeted out a profane message directed at Vince McMahon's company. We have to wonder how things will pan out now that Charlotte Flair is on SmackDown as their top champion. And we're ending today with Impact Wrestling, as tonight will be the company's annual Bound for Glory event, where Braun Strowman is expected to debut. Getting the former Universal Champion would be a huge score for Impact, but he's not the only ex-superstar expected tonight. Fightful Selective found that former Divas and Women's Champion Melina Perez is in Las Vegas, where Bound for Glory is taking place, and although this doesn't guarantee an appearance, it does seem very likely. Melina debuted for Impact earlier this year, but has been busy with the NWA more recently, but fans can expect the former superstar to show up unannounced tonight at Bound for Glory. Well guys, that's our news for today. Please share your comments below. Also hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell icon to receive all notifications. And as always, thanks for watching.